In the heart of a crowded neighborhood in Ibadan stood an old bungalow painted in tired yellow. The house had seen many tenants come and go, but one thing remained constant: misfortune followed anyone who lived there. People in the area called it "Face Me I Face You," because the 8 rooms stood opposite each other with a narrow corridor in between. The compound had a shared kitchen, a single tap that often coughed more air than water, and a bathroom that always seemed to need repair. The owner of the house, Mama Busy, was a widow in her late 60s. She wore wrapper and blouse every day, tying her headscarf tightly like someone protecting secrets inside her thoughts. Her face always carried a calm expression, but her eyes were sharp, the kind that noticed everything. Mama Busy had one rule: rent must be paid on time. Yet, strangely, most of her tenants struggled. At first, people blamed the economy. Nigeria was not easy. But over the years, a pattern formed that nobody could explain. Anyone who moved into Mama Busy's compound started well, then life would slowly scatter like rice in harmattan wind. Room 1 belonged to Connor, a young mechanic. When he first moved in, his workshop was booming. Customers came daily, and money flowed like palm wine during festival season. But 3 months later, his tools began to disappear mysteriously. His customers stopped coming. His assistant left without explanation. Soon, Connor could barely feed himself. Room 2 belonged to Sod, a tailor with golden hands. She could turn ordinary fabric into clothing that looked like it came from Lagos boutiques. At first, she had many customers. Brides came to her with expensive lace. But suddenly, mistakes started happening. Measurements became wrong. Sewing machine broke again and again. Customers complained. Some refused to pay her balance. Within a year, Sod could barely afford thread. Room 3 housed Mr. Okeke, a mathematics teacher. He had dreams of opening his own tutorial center. He saved money carefully, but every time he tried to start the center, something went wrong. Once, thieves broke into his room and stole his savings. Another time, the landlord of the shop he wanted increased rent suddenly. Room 4 belonged to Bose, a food vendor famous for her jollof rice. People used to queue for her cooking. Then she started falling sick frequently. Her ingredients would spoil quickly. Customers complained her food no longer tasted the same. Room 5 was occupied by Tond, a barber who once cut hair for politicians' aides. His clippers started malfunctioning. Electricity issues became worse whenever he had many customers waiting. Eventually, customers stopped coming. Room 6 belonged to Esther, a hairdresser with big dreams. She hoped to open a big salon one day. But each time she saved money, an emergency appeared: hospital bills, family problems, broken appliances. Room 7 housed Musa, a security guard who worked night shifts. At night, the tenants would gather near the tap to talk. "I don't understand my life again," Sod would sigh. Connor would shake his head. "It is like something is following me." Bose would add, "Since I came here, nothing is working." Mr. Okeke, the teacher, tried to remain logical. "It is probably coincidence. The economy is bad." But deep down, they all felt something was wrong. Even the compound itself felt heavy at night. Sometimes, the air smelled strange, like wet soil after rain, even when the ground was dry. Sometimes, dogs barked continuously at midnight. Sometimes, tenants dreamed of someone digging in the compound. But nobody spoke openly about fear. In Nigeria, people know that not everything has a simple explanation. Chika was different from the others. He was quiet but observant. He had studied computer science but had struggled to find a job after graduation. When he moved into Mama Busy's house, he promised himself that things would change. Every morning, he left the compound early, dressed neatly, carrying his one laptop bag. He applied for jobs tirelessly. At first, rejection emails came daily. Unfortunately. We regret. Not selected. Still, Chika refused to lose hope. He began freelancing online, doing small programming tasks for little pay. One night, while working on his laptop, the light suddenly went off. Power outage. He stepped outside and noticed something strange. All other houses on the street still had electricity. Only Mama Busy's compound was dark. It wasn't the first time. Months passed. One afternoon, Chika returned home with bright excitement in his eyes. He had received an email from an international company. They had seen his freelance work and wanted to hire him remotely. The salary was more than he had ever imagined. For the first time since moving into the compound, Chika smiled fully. He ran into the corridor where other tenants sat peeling vegetables and repairing slippers. "I got a job," he announced. Everyone looked at him in surprise. Connor laughed. "Don't joke like that." "I'm serious," Chika said, showing them the email on his phone. Mr. Okeke adjusted his glasses and read carefully. "This is real," he said slowly. Sod covered her mouth in excitement. "Oh, this is good news." For the first time in years, joy entered the compound. That evening, they contributed small money and bought a bottle of soft drink and groundnuts to celebrate. Even Mama Busy came out of her room. "So, you have found work?" she asked quietly. "Yes, Mama," Chika replied respectfully. Mama Busy nodded slowly, but something strange flickered in her eyes. After Chika got the job, unusual things began happening. His internet would suddenly stop working during important meetings. His laptop once refused to turn on. One morning, he woke up feeling extremely weak, as if he had worked all night carrying heavy loads. But each time something went wrong, it fixed itself mysteriously. It was as if something was trying, but failing, to stop him. Chika began to pray more often. He also encouraged the other tenants. "Let's not lose hope," he told them. Hope slowly returned to the compound. Sod began sewing again with determination. Connor repaired his tools. Esther started learning new hairstyles online. Mr. Okeke began teaching neighborhood children for small fees. Energy changed. Mama Busy noticed. And she became restless. One night, heavy rain fell. The compound flooded slightly, water rushing through the narrow corridor. Around midnight, a loud sound echoed from Mama Busy's room. The tenants rushed out. They found Mama Busy sitting on the floor, crying deeply. Her wrapper was soaked with sweat. "I cannot continue like this," she said weakly. Nobody understood. "Mama, what is wrong?" Bose asked gently. Mama Busy looked at Chika. "Your success has broken something," she said. The tenants exchanged confused looks. Finally, Mama Busy spoke words she had hidden for years. "When my husband died, I had nothing," she began. "The tenants in this house were rich. They insulted me. They refused to pay rent. Some even tried to push me out." Her voice trembled. "A woman told me about something that would make tenants never leave, something that would make them always need the house." The compound fell silent. "I buried something in this house," Mama Busy whispered. A cold feeling passed through everyone. "A charm," she continued. "To make anyone living here struggle financially, so they would never move away, so they would always depend on the cheap rent." Sod gasped. Connor clenched his fist. Mr. Okeke looked shocked beyond words. "The charm kept tenants poor," Mama Busy said, tears streaming down her face. "But when Chika got that job, the charm became weak. It started disturbing me in my dreams. My husband appeared to me. He told me to remove it." Silence filled the compound like thick smoke. Under the heavy rain, Mama Busy carried a small lantern. She walked slowly to the backyard. The tenants followed cautiously. Near the old mango tree, Mama Busy stopped. Her hands shook as she pointed to the ground. It is here. Connor fetched a shovel. He began digging. The soil was soft. After some minutes, the shovel hit something hard. They uncovered a small clay pot tied with red cloth. The air felt heavy. Mama Busy fell to her knees. This is what I buried. She began to cry loudly. I was afraid of poverty. I didn't want tenants to become rich and leave me alone. Mr. Okeke shook his head slowly. Mama, this is why we have all suffered. Mama Busy nodded painfully. They did not know what to do. Chika stepped forward. We cannot continue like this, he said. He suggested they destroy the charm. Connor broke the clay pot carefully. Inside were strange items, feathers, coins, small bones, and a paper with symbols. They poured everything into a small fire. As the items burned, wind blew strongly. The rain suddenly stopped. The night became quiet. Mama Busy looked relieved, as if heavy chains had been removed from her chest. I am sorry, she whispered repeatedly. In the following weeks, changes began to happen. Connor's workshop received new customers. Sod got a big sewing contract for school uniforms. Mr. Okeke's tutorial classes increased. Boza's cooking regained its sweet taste. Esther started getting many hairstyling customers. Tom's barber shop became busy again. Musa's salary was paid on time. Even Mama Busy's health improved. The compound that once felt heavy now felt alive. Laughter returned. Hope returned. Peace returned. One evening, Mama Busy gathered all tenants. I have wronged you, she said humbly. I will reduce everyone's rent until the end of the year. The tenants were surprised. I also promise, she continued, I will never use evil again. Chika smiled gently. We forgive you, Mama. Forgiveness filled the compound like fresh air after rain. Months later, the house at number 18 Ajodi Street became known for good fortune instead of hardship. Tenants began progressing in life. Some eventually moved to bigger apartments. But unlike before, Mama Busy was no longer afraid. She had learned an important lesson. When you hold others down, you also remain down. But when you lift others, everyone rises. Chika eventually helped Mama Busy repair the house. They painted the walls bright cream. They fixed the tap. They repaired the bathroom. The compound became a place of encouragement. Whenever a new tenant moved in, Mama Busy would say, "This house used to hold secrets. Now it holds blessings."